welcome. We are live. We're live today. Let me check where we're live everywhere. Hopefully we're going live across the board, but who knows? Hello, everyone. Welcome. I hope everybody's okay today. How are we all doing? How is everyone? I'm just checking where we're live. I think we are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. We are live everywhere. We're not live here. We're going to go live on Facebook. Let's go. Let's go, girls. Yes, we're live everywhere. Love it. Oh, it's a good time to get a cough all of a sudden when you're live on everywhere. I don't know whether this is a good light there. We might move you over there. Would that be better? Probably. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the live. Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about, well, all sorts of things. And if you've got any questions, feel free to send them in because we are going to be answering questions from you all. We are live everywhere. Yes, we are. Love it. Okay. I'm looking in a various array of places. So if you've got any questions, feel free to get them in. We're going to be talking today about anything that you would like to talk about, but I wanted to get started this morning with a little bit about kind of the stories of what happens when we just follow what's happening in our world. And I think sometimes when we are following a path of, God and spirituality and following intuition and so on and so forth, we often think that anything that is put in our path is from God, is for us. And this isn't necessarily true. And, today I took a video of it, but today I had this happening that I've had a very good morning. I've had a great day. This morning, I had a meeting with a podcast host, so I'm really excited to share that with you guys when that comes to fruition. But I'm going to be doing a very fun podcast. Maybe put you over there, might be better. That's better, isn't it? So we're going to be doing a really fun podcast, and that's going to be coming up soon. In a couple of weeks' time, we're recording, so I'm going to let you guys know when that happens, come to fruition. But this morning's been like a really, really good morning. I've had a great day. Got up early. I started reading a new book that I kind of found, if you have those places in supermarkets where they have like people have dropped their books off and stuff. Well, I found a book in one of those, which was really nice. And the book is called The Fourth Dimension. And it's a lot about kind of, spirituality, metaphysical, about kind of religion and Jesus and all sorts of stuff. But I was looking at this book this morning, and it was talking about how God kind of gives you things, but it gives you specific things. And I'm thinking about kind of manifesting. When we manifest, a lot of the times, a lot of us are kind of not really putting in, these very kind of obvious things that we want. We often kind of ask for these non-obvious things. We ask for these non-specific things. We're often asking for things like, can I have more money? Well, why? Why do you want more money? What do you want money for? What is the money for? What's the purpose of it? What's the point of it? And how much do you want? When do you need it by? And I was reading this book this morning called The Fourth Dimension, and one of the people that wrote it, he's a pastor, and he's from Korea. And he's talking about how he had basically got tuberculosis, and this was kind of like after the war in Korea had happened. And he lives in South Korea. And he ended up getting really severe tuberculosis and was given 3 months to live. And during this time, he was kind of following all of his like Buddhist ideologies and all of these sorts of things that he was following. And there was a young woman that came to visit him who was a Christian, and she would come and talk to him about Jesus. And he didn't have any kind of anything, nothing good happened, nothing good was happening. And he was getting really annoyed by this woman who kept coming to talk to him about Jesus. And one day she was praying for him. And he said that he'd experienced what it was like to be a Christian from her perspective, because although she didn't know him, and although there was no reason for her to pray for him, she prayed for him, and he said that because he was dying anyway, and he felt convicted by the way that this young Christian woman was praying for him, he felt like he wanted to give something to her. So he said to her, I'm going to become a Christian. He's dying anyway, so he had nothing to lose, I suppose. He's like, I'm going to become a Christian for you. And at that moment, he said that he felt very convicted, and he started to pray, and he started to read the Bible. And it's funny because she said to him, like, she gave him her Bible, and he started to read from Genesis, and she was like, look, you're dying, don't start at Genesis, you're never going to finish the book, which I thought was really funny. She said start at Matthew, which is really funny because I started rereading the Bible recently, and I was like, started reading it from Genesis, and I was like, oh god, this stuff is not great. I was like, let's just go to the book of Matthew and go from like the stories of Jesus, let's get to the good bits. Because if you know, the Old Testament is very much based on the Torah, is very much based on I follow a lot of Gnostic mysticism and Christian mysticism, and the Gnostics talk about how the God of the original Bible, the Torah, and the Old Testament is actually not the God that that begat Jesus. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to read that. I'm going to go in and read start from Matthew. And it's funny because this young Christian woman told him to start at Matthew. She was saying to him, like, start at Matthew because you're going to be dead before you can even get to Revelation. Like, you need to start here. And he said that he was reading the Bible, and as he got to know Jesus, as he got to know the stories of Jesus, he began to become more and more convicted. And as a result, he ended up becoming a pastor, and he actually managed to live. He's an old man. He was an old man when he wrote this book. So this 3 months of this aggressive tuberculosis that was his prognosis actually didn't happen. He prayed to God, and God helped him to heal, and as a result he went on to kind of preach the word of Jesus in a different way, though, in quite a metaphysical way, because he's written this book called The Fourth Dimension, and within it he talks about how he was trying to manifest things into his life, and he was out preaching, and he was trying to sort of spread the good word, and he had gone to spread this, he was walking miles, and he was coming home, and he had nothing. He was studying on the floor, sleeping on the floor, walking miles to go to sort of share this, the good word, as it say. And he said, like, what kind of a person am I that I'm supposed to be this follower of Christ, but I have nothing, I've got nothing in my life. And he said that he was reading Romans and Matthew, and it talks about how that if you wish to manifest something into your life, you have to be specific. You have to be specific in how you ask for things. And that it says within the Bible that if you wish to pray and you pray for specific things, then those things will be given. But I find, like, a lot of us, when we're asking for stuff, we're just asking for stuff. We're like, dear God, can I have some money? Dear God, can I have this? Dear God, can I have the other? And ultimately, those things are not given to us because we're not specific. And he'd asked God for a desk, and he'd asked God for a bed, and he'd asked him for a bicycle. And what had happened was that when he asked in general, he'd sort of said to God, why haven't I received my wishes? Why haven't I received my prayers? It says in the Bible, ask and you shall receive. And he said that he'd heard a voice of God within his head that said that you've not given me any specifics. You've just asked for a desk. He was being humble. So he was like, he asked for a humble desk and a humble chair and a humble bed and a humble bicycle. And he said that he'd heard this word of God. He'd heard the voice of God inside his head. And the voice of God said to him, be specific. Ask for what it is that you actually want, and then I'll be able to deliver it, because you've given me no specific. There's a million types of bicycles. There's millions of types of desks and beds and things. Like, what is it that you actually want? Because God wants to provide you with what you actually want. And so I was reading it this morning, just thinking about, like, have I actually got a specific goal? Is my goal specific? And I know that within coaching, we often do this thing where we talk about SMART goals, where is it smart? Is it measurable? Is it accurate? is it achievable? Sorry, is it achievable? Is it realistic? And is it time based? And they use this acronym of SMART when we create goals to make sure that we're actually creating something that, one, we can track, that we actually know that we've achieved. Like, is it realistic? Are you trying to lose 100 pounds of weight in a month? Not realistic, not going to happen. You're setting yourself up for a failure. Is it achievable? Is it time-based? Do you know when you'll have achieved it? So we have all of these things. And I think that, a lot of the times with manifesting, and for me, when manifesting has worked for me, I've been really specific about it. So, manifesting the looks of partners, the way they are, people, people, places, things, and being very specific about it. And whenever I do kind of, witchcraft and spells and things like that, I'm always very specific about what it is I ask for, because I'm aware that the universe has this nature of bringing you what you ask for. And sometimes it can bring it to you in a way that you don't really want. So I often warn my clients, when we're talking about magic and spell work and manifestation, often one of my clients, I'm like, be specific about what it is that you want, and make sure that you ask for things without harm to yourself, harm to others, and this or something better, because God sometimes has greater plans for us. And I'm always very specific with this. But sometimes when I'm in the depths of sadness, whatever, when I'm really reaching out to God and I don't know what to do, I'm not really very specific about those times. I'm often just kind of like, oh, God, help me, God, help me. I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know what to do, and it's like, well, how can God help you when you don't even know what you want help with? If you're not saying like, I need help with my business because I haven't got enough money and there's not enough clients, or I need help at home because I'm exhausted, I'm stressed, and there's not enough money to pay the bills. If you're not kind of like specific about it, how can God know how to help you? Because the thing about it is, and I know that sounds ridiculous, because it's like, well, God is everything, God's omnipotent, God can, whatever, but God also has given you free will, and that is the free will to also suffer. That is also the free will to turn away from God. That is also the will to turn away and fall into sin, things that harm you. So if God's given you the power to do all of those things and to, wreck your life if you want to, because you have the free will to do that. I know, I've done it for a year. I did it for years. God also isn't going to come in and just like fix everything for you. So sitting down on your knees and being like, help me, God, your prayers are probably going to go unanswered. Because what do you want help with? How do you want to be helped? God isn't just going to come in and just like broom, like suck, hoover everything out of your life that is problematic for you, because that's in itself is terrifying and problematic. Like if you just ask God for help and then God just comes down and just fixes everything in your life, that's going to be quite earth-shattering for you, because ultimately the earth-shattering side of it could be that you're in the wrong relationship, you're in the wrong job, you're in the wrong place, and suddenly, you lose your partner, you lose your job, you lose your home, you lose all of these things. That's why I always warn my clients, be very careful about what you ask for, be careful what you wish for. So if you're just asking for help from this seemingly innocuous, no specificity, can't say that now, you're not going to get what you want, because God isn't going to just come in and just clear the decks for you. God wants you to be specific in what you ask for. And, I'm not somebody that thinks that, I personally believe that Christianity and like magic can go hand in hand, personally. I know a lot of people don't follow that, but I've been studying occultism and religion and so forth for like 25 years plus. And everything that I've read and whatever, I don't feel convicted to not bring these two things together. I'm aware that there's other people that feel very convicted that these two things shouldn't go together, but for me that isn't the case. And I might be wrong, and I may be, led astray or whatever, but I don't believe I am. And I think that, when we bring these things together, when we bring, intention and magic and working with God and asking for what we want, then really beautiful, powerful things can happen. And I know this because I've done it numerous times in my life. But you have to be specific. You have to ask God for what you want. And you also have to be reciprocal. You have to know that with great power comes great responsibility, you know. And if you're not somebody that is prepared to put the gifts that are given to you towards something good, then expect to have them taken away at some point, you know. And this is the thing, I think, sometimes, where people say, like, why is the world, why do bad people get things, you know? Why do bad people have good things happen to them? And it's because God isn't a judgmental God. There's just this, there is this, like, the way that the universe works. There's a pattern to the universe. There is a method. There's a way of doing things. And if you follow that prescription, if you follow that, you know, the spell, the way of doing things, then you're going to receive those things, whether you're good or bad, because ultimately God doesn't judge you in those ways. God doesn't look at you and go, oh, you're a bad person, so I'm not going to answer your prayers. If you know how to pray properly and you ask for the things that you want, then you shall often receive them, as long as it's for the betterment of I don't even know if it is for the betterment for you and others. You know, that might not even be the case, because we see people who are gaining things that are not for the betterment for themselves and not for the betterment of others, and they still receive what they've asked for. So, you know, remember that Jesus said, ask and you shall receive. You know, but there's also these rhymes and reasons of how to ask, and it is part of that is being specific about what it is that you want. And I don't just mean, like, give me $100. You know, well, why do you want $100? What will you put that energy towards? What is the benefit of it? And ask for others before you ask for yourself. There's a part in the Kabbalah, from I believe from the Torah, that it says that God listens to prayers of those that ask for others first. So if you've asked for a prayer for somebody else before you've asked for yourself, God will deal with your prayers first. And it's not because God's this man up on a cloud being like, that guy said this thing and that guy said that thing. It's because there's an energy, you know, everything's energetics. And if the energy of your prayer is one that spreads love and spreads joy and spreads happiness across the world, and you're thinking of others as well as yourself, how can that not multiply? Because you're already starting from a vibration of multiplicity, where it's like, you're not scarce, you're not impoverished, you are asking for somebody else before you ask yourself. Does this make sense? Am I making sense, guys? If you've got any questions, ask away. I'm just jammering. If you've got any questions about anything, we're doing life coaching here. I'm a specialist in neurodiversity, spirituality, and psychology. So if there's anything you'd like to ask about yourself, about your own life, about me, about anything, I'll do my best to answer it. As I sit and drink my semi-cold coffee now. But I think that, you know, a lot of people who try to manifest, they are not getting their manifestations, mainly due to the fact that they're not really asking correctly. You know, we're making wishes and we're not specific. We don't know why we're asking for it. We don't know why we want it. You know, a lot of people ask for money. It's like, well, why do you want money? Well, most people want money so that they can have freedom. It's like, oh, hang on a minute then. You don't actually want the money. You don't actually want the work. You want the freedom to travel. You want the freedom to have time off. So if you're asking for more clients, yeah, I own my own business. You know, if I'm asking for, can I have 100 clients so I can make an extra like 6 figures, and I actually don't want to do the work because actually what I want the money for is to go on holiday. It's like, God's not going to give me that because it's not what I actually want. And so the energy is janky. I'm asking for one thing, but actually in my heart, I want something else. So, you know, when you're asking for something and it isn't steady, the energy's not steady, it's not right, it's not consistent, you're not going to manifest consistently. You're not going to manifest the things that you want because you're manifesting from a position of confusion. So get very specific. Use that SMART goal. You know, is it specific? Okay, that's number one. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? Is it realistic? And is it time-based? Start with that, with any goal that you want, you know. Okay, I wanna make an extra 100K this year. Okay, well, it's October. Is that smart? You know, is it specific? Very specific. You know, I know what it is. I've got a time base by the end of the year. Is it measurable? Yeah, it's measurable. 100K in 3 months. You know, is it achievable? Yeah, fuck yeah, I could probably make 100K in the next 3 months if I wanted to. Is it realistic? Is it realistic? Probably not. Because am I actually going to realistically do what I need to do between now and December for me to make an extra 100k? Probably not, because I'm doing other stuff. I've got my masters on and at the moment, and it's like, have you got the systems in place? So when you start to recognize that you ask for something, and then there's a part of the goal, kind of like the ask falls out of it somewhere. Don't feel sad about it. Recognize that you've got a hole in your process, okay? And the hole in your process is a limitation. And as my coach says, limitation brings style. So, you know, if you've got a limitation, it just means that there's something that needs to be added to it. So I would need to have a full passive system and really, really tight systems in place, and probably a virtual assistant for me to make that 100k between now and December. And if I wanted to do it, I could absolutely do it. But before doing it, I would have to implement that one thing, because that thing that is missing from the SMART, from that kind of making it really a sensible goal that's reasonable, that part is missing. And so I need to work on that one bit. And you can start to utilize this with all goals and then bring God into it. You know, you don't have to do everything on your own. I don't do anything on my own. I do everything with God and magic, because everything that I do by myself can be 10-folded if I bring God into it. Well, it'd be 1,000,000-folded if I bring God into it. But if I bring magic into it, it can be 10-folded. And when I work from a place of flow and good energy and magic, things are just so much easier. Things are so much easier than trying to do things on your own. So any questions, guys, feel free to put them in the chat. But I think that the most important thing is that you keep trying, okay? You keep trying, that you don't give up on yourself, you don't give up on your dreams, and you bring God, you know, and God triggers people. So, you know, for those of you that are triggered, we call it GUS, you know, which is God, the universe, and source. And if you are on the right path, doors open for you. If you're not on the right path, it normally feels like an upward trudge. And if you haven't put systems in place, like, you know, having SMART goals, having it reasonable, realistic, time-based, measurable, specific, if you haven't done that, you'll find that you can, you know, there'll be some flailing in whatever it is that you're trying to create. It doesn't end up being, you know, you can hit success accidentally, but it'll burn itself out at some point, because there's no system behind it, there's no reason behind it. So, you know, and I've done this with a few things. You know, I've fallen into success with a few things, and it's like, well, that's great, but it necessarily can't be kind of continued. So if you are, you know, if you want to change your life and you want to do something new with your life, you have to kind of recognize where it is that you're going in the first place, you know. And I think one of the biggest problems that a lot of people have is that they just don't really know where they're going. And so that's that first part, is to make it specific. Make it really specific. What is your goal? Why do you want it? Okay. And is your goal the thing that you actually want? You know, is that what you actually want? As I said, some people say, I want more money. Okay, great. But why do you want more money? Well, I want to have freedom. I want to have the luxuries. I want to be able to do what I want to be able to do. So it's like, okay, we don't really want the money then. What you actually want is the freedom. What you actually want is to have more time at home. What you actually want is to spend time with your family. So find the actual why behind the goal, and then go after that thing. Because if you're going after, you know, this goal that you think that you want, but isn't actually the thing that you want, you're going to get a subconscious resistance to it, because ultimately you don't want that thing. Okay. So like I say, like if I know if I make another 100k between now and December, okay, great. How much more work am I going to have to put in to do that? I don't actually want to do that because I'm really busy at the moment. So if you have this goal, you know, this arbitrary goal, 100k before December, and then behind all of that, in the subconscious, the brain is going like, oh God, but we don't have the systems for that. And that's going to be really hard work. And what am I going to do with all those clients and blah, blah, blah. You're going to be then in this thing where you're 1 foot forward and 3 steps back, because you actually don't want that goal. So think about what the goal is that you want. Okay. And then think about why you want that goal, and then go after the thing that you actually want, you know, because if it's like another 100k, well, why? Oh, I want to travel first class to Mexico for 3 weeks. Okay, so do you want the 100k, or do you want to go on holiday in Mexico? I want to go on holiday in Mexico, you know? So it's like, and do I have to work? Do I have to work to get a holiday to Mexico? Or could I manifest winning it? Could I manifest winning a trip to Mexico? Do you see what I mean? So it's like, go after the thing that you actually want instead of the thing you think you want, because otherwise you're going to try to manifest and create something that actually isn't what you want, isn't what you need in your life. So be specific. Okay, bring God into the picture always, 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 always. Work some magic and use those SMART goals to help yourself. And if you've got any questions or queries, feel free to reach out. And underneath this live video, if you're watching this on replay or you're rewatching or whatever, if you want to put your goals in the bottom and you want me to help you with your goal to make sure that you're actually aligned with it, then let me know and I can give you some tips about your goal. But I love you all. Thank you so much for watching this afternoon, and I shall speak to you all soon. And if you don't know me or you haven't followed me, go follow me at Laura Maelstrom. I'm on Facebook. You can find me, Instagram, and I'm also available on TikTok and YouTube. We've got loads on all of those platforms. But have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll speak to you all soon. Take care of yourselves, guys. Bye.